Great Depression was a severe worldwide depression that shook the 20th century. In the 1930s, the Great Depression was the longest, deepest, widespread depression to take place in this time period. The depression was a result of an accumulation of events, but mainly the big stock market crash of 1929. Many people suffered, and this was considered one of the toughest times for the American people. 13 to 15 million people suffered. As a result of the Great Depression, our nation engaged in World War II. After the war began, the nation slowly started to rebuild with the help of the new president, Franklin D. Roosevelt, who implemented new ideas to get the nation back on its feet. You need to know about the Great Depression because it was one of the most detrimental periods known to the Western industrialized world of its time. As a result of the Great Depression, we are still experiencing the ideas put into place as a result of it. I will begin tonight by telling you what caused the Great Depression. According to AboutHistory.com, October 29, 1929, the stock market crashed. This was the biggest cause of the Great Depression because 40 million people lost their investments because 16 million trades were sold in one day. Another cause in addition to the stock market crash was the failure of banks. Banks were scared for their own survival, so they began to trust less and less, which resulted in no new loans. This caused less expenditures, and people that were uninsured lost all their savings. As a result, 9,000 banks failed, which was another additive to the depression. Because of the crash and bank failure, people started to become scared to spend money on anything. Therefore, there was a gap between supply and demand, resulting in production loss. Because of these events, workforce began to suffer, resulting in unemployment increasing to 25%. People's belongings started to be repossessed, and the downfall started to happen more and more. Now that I've told you what caused the Great Depression, I will share with you some statistics from the Depression. The Depression resulted in the biggest rates of unemployment. According to SMOP.com, in 1929, unemployment was at 3.2%. 1930, it was at 8.9%. And then in 1933, it jumped to 24.9%. Because of unemployment and turmoil, many people lived in devastation. 50% of children lived without food, shelter, or adequate care. Many children suffered from different diseases and mainly a disease known as rickets. Also in this time, over 60% of people lost their homes and were homeless. There was so much loss in this time period. 750,000 farms were lost, and there was a 23% increase in suicide rates. All kinds of chaos and troublesome times occurred at this time. Now that I've shared with you the Great Depression statistics, I will share with you how the Great Depression came to an end. The end signal for the Depression was basically the beginning of World War II. Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, and the U.S. borrowed over $2 billion to strengthen their army, increasing manufacturing to over 50%. This led in unemployment decrease. It fell from 17.2% to under 5%. As a result, in the unemployment rates going down, trade started to increase again, and people slowly started to begin spending money and investing again. President Franklin D. Roosevelt implemented the New Deal to help get the U.S. back on track. According to USEconomy.com, he used 42 different agencies to help people create jobs. Two of those plans were the Social Security and FDIC, which are still in effect today. In conclusion, the Great Depression was a long, detrimental period of history that has influenced many programs and values that we still have today. It is so important to know and learn about these periods of our history to understand why our world is the way it is today. All of these important events, such as the Great Depression, is essentially what has molded our country into who we are today. As quoted by Franklin D. Roosevelt, we cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future.
Yeah.